Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons review show. Mike, I thought I'd have a bit more positive news, but again, we've lost to Wolves 1-0, and we are now 18th. So happy days.
Yeah. Well, I did predict we would most likely lose. I just said I couldn't see us scoring. I didn't see us getting much out of the game, and I thought that Wolves could nick it, and nick it they did. Their goal was decent in the sense of it was a really good finish from outside the box, but really to concede straight from a corner is disappointing. We also started that half quite vibrant as well, and then after that it just was not going to happen. There was too much that happened in that game to say it wasn't going to kind of go in for us.
Let's take it back to the start with, because the lineups came out 4-3-3 from Moyes, midfield three of Souček, Rice, Paqueta, Fornals left wing, and Ben Rama on the bench. What did you make of that?
I made of that he was worried about their pace, that we needed to defend, and he needed to protect Cresswell. Hence why Fornals played, because Fornals will work incredibly hard. He'll come inside when you need to help out that midfield and make it an even more compact kind of compact four, really. And also he'll work his socks off up and down that side, because that's what he does. He works incredibly hard. So that's what I kind of saw. That defense, no real surprise. We said the other day that, we knew Dawson wasn't going to be starting playing, and Zuma was always going to be touch and go. So we kind of assumed that there probably would be Ogbonna in there. So there wasn't really any shocks. It's pretty easy to select a West Ham team at the moment. Nothing new is attempted or tried. It's the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. Obviously, Antonio up top. Again, we had that in our predicted 11. And he didn't do much at all. And that's it politely. So, yeah, there's no shocks in that lineup at all. Nothing.
It looks like we were... let's just sort of talk about the first opening 20-25 minutes. It looked like we kind of set out to do what we normally do, which is keep it tight, keep a low block. And a lot of the time, we were actually defending with Bowen and Fornals pinned right back, and it was almost a back six at times. And
yeah, even Rice and Souček, where you'd see at times, would just drop him right into that back line as well. It's so low at times and so defensive. And one of the things we called out prior to the game was Wolves' issues playing out from the back. Yeah. And we periodically pressed their back line. And when we did, we got a bit of joy because we caused them some trouble. And they either hit it long or they kind of misplaced the pass, and we had opportunities to then kind of press. But it was just too sporadic. And when they beat that first line, granted, we settled back into our defensive shape. Nothing wrong with that. But again, there was no real rim press. So they just had so much time to play around in midfield. And had we put a bit more pressure on, because they were pushing so many up, again, we would have had such better opportunities to hit them in transition.
Yeah, I think what the main problem was, especially in that first 20, 25, 30 minutes, we were sitting so low and we had so many players back, almost like our back six, like you mentioned, in transition. When we did pick up the ball, we couldn't play between the lines, because all we had was Antonio up there, who was battling with maybe two or three of their defenders and one of their midfielders. And he weren't, I will say that with Antonio, he was very isolated yesterday, especially in the first half. And yes, he could have done better in certain situations, but he had absolutely no support just because of how we were set up. And yes, it worked from a defensive point of view in that they didn't create anything really. They had about a half chance with, I think, Nunes in the first half. But other than that, we were just so poor on the ball, really, really bad. And yes, we got the half chance, which we'll get onto, but overall, throughout that first half, it was just the same old stuff where we just couldn't transition, but defensively, we were doing okay.
But again, as we said, you can't transition as well in this league without pace. We don't have pace. It's something we didn't address in the summer, something we've consistently talked around, and there is none. And one of the things that I found funny when you looked at the lineup and looked at the bench was, the the way the club was kind of twerking by the fact that, oh, look, Armstrong Alcaflex is back. Doesn't even make the bench. It's like, what's the point? Like, you're bigging up some of these players and they don't even get any minutes. They don't even get a chance. It's like, what is the point? It's the same crap week in, week out. It's the same team. It's the same subs. It's just like it was the only shot, and it was a shock when he actually took off Souček to move Fornals in the second half. Now, granted, I'm jumping ahead slightly, but again, that was the only time we go, well, that's a bit different. It was just, again, it's just constantly you just go, but it's the same players. There's nothing to freshen it up. Like, we're not saying a youth player is going to come in, set the world alight, and we're all of a sudden going to click as a team. But just, it's something fresh and different. And there's nothing fresh about it. It's completely stale. And it's also because of the football is so turgid and slow and defensive and most of the time passive. And when we are actually active, we get the ball and we seem to be surprised at what to do with it. Or we've got lead boots. Like right at the end of the first half, Antonio had a opportunity to play a simple, and it is simple, pass through, which would have put Fornals basically one-on-one. He would have either had a chance to have a shot or the Bowen was in a position where he could have raced into the box for a cutback. But what's he do? He hits it with so much pace. It goes rolling out of play. And it's things like that which just show there is a lack of care, there's a lack of attention, lack of composure, and a sheer lack of quality and confidence. And it's all of those things coming together in every phase of play, in most cases, apart from one or two players. And, you know, there was a couple of bright spots in the first half. We had, I think about 6 minutes in, we pressed Wolves. They cleared it. It was a weak clearance. Rice then manages to get his head onto it, put it into Paqueta, who instinctively just touches it one touch, puts his player completely straight out the game, gets to the Souček, and then puts it out as Soufal, puts in a decent cross, and, you know, creates a half chance. Bowen gets his foot to it, can't get enough power on it because it's kind of coming behind him, has to kind of throw his leg up, and it's on obviously his right foot, so he's weaker foot. And it's a fairly comfortable save for Sarr. But you look at it and go, right, well, that then should be your blueprint. That's 6 minutes in. That should be your blueprint of exactly how you press them and how you move the ball and how you get going.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And even, the chance that resulted in, you know, us having a good chance. And let's face it, Soufal is destined never to score for West Ham. He's had those chances so many times. But again, it's that anticipation, not anticipating, and that ball might break. You know, had he taken a step forward, now granted the ball took a slight deflection, so he had to change his position slightly. But again, one step further forward as a starting position would have put him in a much better position to come onto that, where he probably would have just had to come onto it and hit it with his left, as opposed to trying to reposition himself to get onto his right foot. He's potentially just run onto it with his left foot and just hitting it first time. And again, he's potentially not scoring, but there's unlikely to be a block on his initial shot. And then obviously a player that can then clear it. And obviously I think it was said I think Declan Rice said cleared off the line. I think that's optimistic
to say going wide.
to say it was cleared off the line. But again, it's a half chance we created.
I think that shows how much of a lack of, like we mentioned, I think Ibby mentioned it last week on the live stream, we don't have like a clear structure or a clear plan to create patterns of play. And you look at our last 7 games, the 3 goals we've scored that have been non-penalty goals have been 2 Benrahma screamers and 1 from Skamaka outside the box, which came out of nothing. So we don't have, like I've mentioned it for the past 2 or 3 weeks, we don't have a system where we create chances like off our own back. Like that Kufal one was a cross, which then deflected to Kufal pretty luckily, actually, when it came across to him. But like that was our moment of the first half. That was pretty much our biggest threat. So let's just move on to the second half, because that first half was pretty dreadful, and it didn't start much better in the second half when Wolves got the first goal, which came from our corner. An easy counter-attack, and they just got, you know, played through a couple balls down the line to the right. Nunez then crossed it into Podence. Cresswell tried to block it, came to the path of Podence, and to be fair to him, it was a very nice finish on the edge of the box, but just another goal that could have been easily avoided.
Story of our season. I'm not even going to go into the details of it, because at this point, it's just another goal that epitomises what is us this year. lack of pace, lack of determination, lack of that cutting edge or that little bit of nastiness just to kind of go, just clip him.
You know what? That actually, you know what annoyed me the most with that goal? You can see, like, on the replay, there's 5 or 6 players of ours from the box, from the corner, jogging. They were jogging back. They weren't sprinting back. Rice was one of them. Agerd was another. I can't remember who the other one was, but there was a few of them just jogging back. A few of them were trying to sprint, but it was half-assed. Like, it really wasn't a group of players that did not want to concede that goal at any cost, and that was what annoyed me most.
Yes, it's just so much that annoys me at the moment. And, you know, in the second half, we huffed and puffed. We knocked it about. It wasn't really any threats at all. You know, we get less than half chances and people are turning around saying, well, that player should have scored this. That player should have done better. It's like, we don't create anything. We've got one of the lowest sets. Like, I think we've got the highest pass rate, or one of the highest passes or number of passes in the final third of most teams in the Premier League. That sounds amazing. But then we have one of the lowest pass rates into the box and into the penalty area. So all that tells you is that we're a team that gets to a final third, passes it around, and has an inability in which to create space, in which to get the ball into the area, and which to generate a shooting opportunity in the area. Now, as you say, we've scored a couple of brilliant goals from outside the box. And I know there was the couple of the player interviews was to make it sound like we've been much better. And we're going, oh, we've had 3 games and we've won 1, and we've lost 1, drawn 1, and we've won 1. It's like, well, one of them was in the cup, right? Okay, that doesn't actually improve our season. The other one was a draw in the league, where 2 goals were absolute just terrible defending errors. And it's just like you're trying to polish a turd, basically. And then to have the response from the manager essentially saying that the fans shouldn't be as have high expectations, when for the past 2 years he's been talking about we want to be a big club, we want to be Champions League, we want to be this, we want to be that. You've been deliberately trying to build our expectations to not accept this mediocrity and piss poor football that we've seen for other years. You've actively spent 2 years trying to build that up in conversation with West Ham fans.
Mike, let me stop you, because we are going to go into Moyes on a separate video. So I'm going to stop you before we get into that tangent. But other than that, you know, once they scored their first goal, Neves almost made it 2-0 when he hit the bar. And then after that, we had Skamaka come onto the pitch. We had Ben Rama on the pitch. We had a half chance, like you mentioned, with Skamaka winning the ball high up with a tackle, and it came to Ben Rama, a weak shot. And then our clearest chance of that second half was when we were kind of putting pressure on, put bodies in the box towards the very end. Rice crossed it in, Skamaka at the back post with a header, and just went wide. I think it should have been a corner, and they only got given as a goal kick. But that seemed like our best chance, really, where it was do or die, hit and hope into the box. And that was our best chance, really. And other than that, it was just, like you mentioned, a pretty meaningless performance once again.
There's just nothing in the final third. There's no invention whatsoever. And the consistent conversation seems to be, well, we just need to do what we're doing because we're not playing badly. Well,
it's not true.
We're not playing well either.
No.
And we've consistently, over 19 games, tried to do the same thing. The results haven't changed. We've got 4 wins this season.
Yeah.
So the law of averages tells you that you've been doing the same thing time and time again. And in fact, over the last 7 games, you've been doing time and time again. And how many wins do you have in those 7 games? None.
Exactly.
We're almost going into, when we look at the next game with Everton, we could very well easily go, if we look at the next 4 games, could actually be 11 games without a win.
Yeah.
11 games without a win. That is relegation form, no matter how you dress it up, no matter how much you talk about the quality in the team. And we spoke about it on the live stream. And it, the point was said, it feels like it did under Avram Grant. It feels like it did. Now, I know people go, well, Avram Grant was a worse manager than Moyes. He was a worse manager than Moyes. But this season, he is not a worse manager than Moyes. Moyes has a worse record this season than Avram Grant did. So if Avram Grant had such a terrible season and then we took us down, what makes people think that Moyes is going to all of a sudden change it? There's nothing there. Pellegrini got sacked for a better record than what in his final season than what Moyes has. So it's all very well saying that like Pellegrini was terrible. Pellegrini's first season wasn't terrible. His second season, when he lost Fabianski, he was terrible. And he got paid the price and got the sack for it. Moyes has been terrible. And we're essentially going, well, he got us to a semi. The football is dire on the pitch. And yesterday, again, it was another case of we get there and in final third, there is no idea on what to do. Or there's just people just putting too much pace in it. And unless it falls to, say, Paqueta in that position, or even a Fornals, you genuinely look at it and go, that pass is not going to be right. Obviously, Ben Rama, again, when he is playing, there's another player you feel that is probably going to get that pass right. I think any other player given that opportunity to pass that ball through to Fornals would have made that pass, or at least done the pass that kept it in bloody play.
Yep.
It's just, at the moment, the selection is terrible. Our player is terrible. Our manager is, at the moment, terrible. The only thing that is good is the fact that our fans are turning up to watch that and trying to support the team. And any fan at the end of that game who wants to go at the team, you have your right. You spent your money. You've gone up there. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
And that's what you watch. And I think sometimes there's a lot of this, oh, well, the fans need to get behind us and support us. It's like the fans are there. The fans are there because they're supporting you. And it comes a point where you have to acknowledge that you aren't giving the fans anything to support. And the fact that the fans are turning up is the support in itself. Now, you need to give them something, hope, that so they can then go, you know what, I'm going to cheer that tackle. I'm going to cheer that save. I'm going to cheer that shot. I'm going to cheer even that miss because it was a good move. We did something right.
Yeah.
And that's not happening consistently enough for them to turn around and say, well, it's up, we need you. It's like, yeah, we also need you. It's not just on us to support you. You have to support each other and give us something to get behind and cheer.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much summed it up, because we just don't look like a team that, like Moyes has mentioned in his pressers, a team that's, starting to turn, or a team that's starting to build. So it's all words. Talk is cheap, as they say, and there's a lot of talking that's been said, not just from Moyes, but from the players as well on social media. There's been a lot of that, and nothing's changed. So it's going to be tough to turn it around. Now, like we mentioned, we needed at least 4 or 6 points from these 2 fixtures. That's not going to happen. Now we have Everton. It is a must win. If he doesn't win, then there's no way he keeps his job. There is absolutely no way. So it's a huge week coming up for West Ham. We're trying to stay positive. We will until the Everton game. And yeah, I just hope that there's a performance when we turn up at that London Stadium next week, and the fans will be there. The fans will be behind the team from the start. So there's no doubt in that. And yeah, it's just we need to see something different, whether that's tactically, like we've mentioned, or even players just giving a shit on the pitch. Let's be real. It's a bit of both. But yeah, that's been our review. Not much from our side, really. There really wasn't that much action for us. And to be Wolves, to be fair, they didn't have much, and especially in the first half. But second half, they showed their quality around the final third. We showed our lack of quality, to say the least. And yeah, we were punished. And now we find ourselves in the relegation zone, as expected. And yeah, Mike, we've got a pretty big uphill battle from because we're halfway through the season exactly now, and we're on 15 or 14 points, which is just shocking.
Yeah, our only saving grace is that no one's really pulling away from the lesser teams. So we're 1 or 2 wins away from changing our fortunes, but also we're 1 or 2 defeats away from slipping away from the pack. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how this week goes. If anything changes, we'll be bringing you any of the news and also reacting to it. But I expect Moyes to be in charge for Everton. I don't think they'll act yet. And yeah, like we mentioned, it is a huge game for both clubs. So it's going to be a pretty cagey match. And yeah, I guess we've got to stay positive. We didn't win this one, but we will move on to the next day, Mike. Players say, yeah, we'll go again.
Exactly. And yeah, that's going to be it for us. Make sure to like the video. Comment down below what your thoughts are at the moment with West Ham as a club, both on and off the pitch, sorry. And yeah, I guess until the next one, Mike.
Yep. Come
Come
on,
on,
your
you Lions.
Lions.